On July 12, 2015, in Mays Landing, New Jersey, the mysterious death of 18-year-old Tiffany Valiante remains unresolved. Her parents, even after 9 years, still seek justice and answers for their young child's death. They never treated the scene like a crime scene and clearly mishandled key evidence, says family lawyer D'Amato. The murderer is still out there and getting away with it, says Diane Valiante, the victim's mother. In my heart and soul, I know somebody killed my baby, but how did Mrs. Valiante's baby actually die? It was on the night of July 12, 2015, when the 18-year-old, recent Oakcrest High School graduate, Tiffany Valiante, went missing. She had been attending her cousin's graduation party. After a 2-hour search, she was found to have been struck by a New Jersey Transit train headed from Philadelphia to Atlantic City. And in less than 24 hours, the New Jersey Transit Police determined her cause of death to be a suicide. A decision which puzzled her parents, as they could not understand why their young, athletic daughter, with no signs of depression or suicidal tendencies, would have taken her own life. Tiffany Valiante had been planning to attend Mercy College on a volleyball scholarship and had had high hopes for the future. Her family, her friends, and the small community of Mays Landing found it hard to believe that the girl who had shared her future plans and high hopes just hours before at a graduation party would have committed suicide later that night, leaving everyone to wonder what had really happened between the party and Tiffany's death. Tiffany had attended her cousin's graduation party all day, left the party at 9 p.m., and headed towards her house across the street. Her parents, who left later, received a call from a friend of Tiffany's, who came to their house around 9:10 p.m. The friend accused Tiffany of using her credit card without permission to buy $300 in clothes and other items. But Tiffany denied the accusation and her mother supported her. The friend drove off with her own mother around 9:24 p.m. When they had left, Diane started searching Tiffany's car for a credit card, and she saw Tiffany slip a card into her back pocket. Diane went to call her husband, Steve, but Tiffany was gone by the time her father arrived. Shortly after, family and friends began texting and calling Tiffany, but they received no response. They then contacted the police and reported her missing. Around 11 p.m., during the search for Tiffany, her uncle saw police activity near some train tracks, and he approached officers who then asked him to identify a body. He did so. It was Tiffany. He then contacted her mother and father about what he had seen. Local news reported Tiffany's death as a suicide, and the New Jersey Transit Police reported the same in merely 24 hours, claiming that they had sufficient evidence to support their conclusion that Tiffany had caused her own death. But there were many discrepancies in the case that did not satisfy Tiffany Valiante's family. For instance, Tiffany suffered from nyctophobia, an intense fear of the dark, which raised questions about how she could have walked 5 miles in the dark. Additionally, they found her cell phone just 10 to 15 feet from the house, which shocked them as Tiffany always kept her phone in her hands. The statements of the engineers on board raised further questions. The senior engineer, Wayne Daniels, initially claimed that he instructed the apprentice engineer to blow the horn and ring the bell as he put the train into emergency brake application, but later changed his statement under oath. Daniels admitted that he had his back to the cab while chatting with his conductor. The student engineer, Marvin Oliveras, testified that he saw someone from half a mile away, blew the horn, and applied the emergency brake, but the person had jumped in front of the train. Later, he changed his testimony, stating that he had not seen Tiffany until he was on top of her. 6 days later, however, Oliveras changed his testimony again, repeating his initial claims about seeing a person from afar who then dove in front of the train as it neared. Along with these inconsistencies, a review of the black box seems to indicate that neither engineer ever rang the emergency bell. Suspicions intensified when it was discovered that no rape kit or DNA testing was performed, and no organs were examined. The toxicology report showed no alcohol or drugs. Tiffany had been completely clean. A black, torn tank top was recovered from the deceased, but many items she was wearing at the party, such as a multicolored rubber bracelet, shorts, shirt, and shoes, were missing, creating significant gaps in the investigation. Then, 3 weeks after the incident, Tiffany's mother, while walking the streets to clear her mind, found Tiffany's new shoes on the side of the road. These shoes were found about 1.7 miles from home, while the scene of the incident was 4.5 miles from home. She called her husband Steve, and when he arrived, they called the police, who found a headband, a keychain, and a sweater. Unfortunately, this keychain would later be lost by police before it could even be analyzed. The parents were then interviewed for the first time, and the police questioned them and look over footage from a deer camera Steve had installed, finding the last photo of Tiffany leaving home, wearing shorts, a headband, a black t-shirt, and flat shoes. The most distressing aspect was that the police did not perform any DNA testing on the items found at the scene. The evidence was so poorly managed that it was impossible to perform DNA tests. Family lawyer D'Amato criticized the investigation. They never treated the scene like a crime scene and clearly mishandled key evidence. He also noted that the scene was never even cordoned off properly. The packaging of evidence was also a problem, being done so inadequately that items were packed in plastic bags instead of paper bags, leading to mold development and destruction of samples. The family later ordered a private DNA examination, and Julie A. Heinig, Ph.D., Laboratory Director of Forensics and DNA Technical Leader, stating, "We were able to obtain very little DNA for comparison due to the manner in which the evidence was collected and maintained. This included storage of evidence in plastic, rather than a paper receptacle, which resulted in moisture-inducing bacterial contamination. The body examination report was so minimal that experts in the field were skeptical of its veracity." There is also another theory which suggests Tiffany's death was a suicide. On July 16th, the Atlantic County Sheriff's Office used a bloodhound to track Tiffany's route from her home to the train tracks. The dog led investigators along a 3.2-mile path ending near where Tiffany was hit. However, the results were deemed unreliable due to recent heavy rain. Additionally, incidents involving Tiffany and her mother raised concerns. For example, a child support police visit followed a fight between Tiffany and her mother, which was described as a typical mother-teenager conflict. A schoolteacher had also called child support after seeing bruises on Tiffany's arm, which Tiffany's mother explained as a normal mother-daughter conflict. A therapist's evaluation deemed their relationship typical and found no significant stress. Some of Tiffany's friends told investigators she had previously self-harmed by cutting her wrist and leg. One friend mentioned Tiffany's depression and suggested untreated mental illness might have contributed to her situation. About 5 months before the incident, Tiffany came out as gay and started a relationship with another girl from Philadelphia. Her parents claimed they were open and accepting of this. A friend mentioned that Tiffany seemed stressed in the last few months, but was usually a happy girl. Yet, at the same time, Tiffany had broken up with her girlfriend just 2 days before the incident. On the night of the incident, Tiffany had argued with a friend over a credit card and then had an argument with her mother, who had said she was going to call Mr. Valiante. It is speculated that this may have led Tiffany to a drastic decision. However, her family and friends strongly opposed this theory, stating that she had shown no signs of stress or suicidal tendencies. Instead, they believe someone else must have been involved. They claim there was a car with clearly visibly headlights shown on the deer camera footage, suggesting that Tiffany had been leaving with people she knew and with whom she was comfortable. According to the Tiffany's parents, these people must have assaulted Tiffany, discarded her phone, and took her to the train tracks, where they finally staged the scene to look like a suicide. The missing clothes found by her mother and the absence of cuts on Tiffany's feet support this theory. The parents also mentioned that an axe was found at the train tracks but later disappeared from police records. The police rejected the claim, stating it was not possible for an axe to be lost. Public and professional opinion over the years have criticized the police's handling of the case. Dr. Donald Jason, a former Atlantic County medical examiner and current professor at Wake Forest, finds it very improbable that Tiffany would have walked 4 miles to die by train, given closer and easier methods. He suggests NJ Transit quickly labeled it a suicide to avoid accountability for potential negligence. Dr. Jason believes Tiffany might have been fleeing someone, making her death more likely an accident or homicide, not suicide. He concludes the case should be considered undetermined due to incomplete investigation. D'Amato, who hired Dr. Jason in 2018, stated, "While we strongly believe she was murdered, the complaint allows for the possibility that the co-conspirators did not intend to kill her but were still responsible for her death on the tracks." With all these issues, the mother and father are in search of answers and have high hopes and strong motivation. They say they will continue to fight until the end and have offered a reward of around $20,000 for anyone who comes forward with information about their daughter's death. They believe someone out there knows the truth, and they hope that person will one day come forward or be discovered.